Welcome back, everyone. In the last video, we created this getCurrentUser method. In this video, we are going to set up our actions so that we can utilize it inside of our sagas. So what I want to do is I want to go into the user types. And here we're going to start adding some additional types to replicate all of these different methods we need to encapsulate. So let's think about what we have. We know we now have this new checkUser session, which is going to call that method we just created together. Additionally, we also know that we have different forms of sign-in, such as our Google sign-in, which we're going to create our Google sign-in start for. And we also have that email sign-in. So similarly, we're going to do an email sign-in start. One thing I do want you to understand though, let's go back to the code we have for Google sign-in start, email sign-in start, as well as checkUser session. So previously, let me just undo this so that we can at least see the code that we had before. So here inside, we have now encapsulated this method inside of our new getCurrentUser method. The thing here is primarily this createUser document from auth. Essentially what we do whenever a user signs in, signs out, or signs in with Google, we are passing them through this createUser document from auth. This methodology is now going to live inside of our Saga. The thing though is that no matter how the user signs in or signs up, they all pass through createUser document from auth. All of our auth updates get triggered inside of here, which is what actually stores the user inside of Firebase in one of our tables, and then we extract it as a user document. So this means that all of our Google sign-in start, email sign-in, checkUser session, these are all actually flowing through the same sign-in. So here what I'm going to make is actually a sign-in success. Just a generic one, which whenever you successfully sign in with email or Google, you're going to pass through the same sign-in success saga. So we want to trigger a sign-in success with that user object that we receive. Similarly, this means that we also want a sign-in failure, a generic one as well, for any failures in our ability to sign in. So this is enough for us to at least start with some of our base sagas. Now, of course, we can always add more as we go, but I'm going to copy these 5 over as well because I want to make new action creators for them. So in order to keep track, I'm just going to put them here. And the new action creators we're going to make is one corresponding for each of these actions. So I want to say export const checkUser session is equal to create action, and then us passing in our user action types .checkUser session. Next, what we also need is the Google sign-in start. So I'm going to export const Google sign-in start is equal to a create action passing in user action types .Google sign-in start. We're also going to need a similar one for email sign-in start, which is equal to us saying this action, create action, and then user action dot email sign in start. The thing that we know about email sign in start though is that we need an email and a password. So these we're going to pass through as a payload inside of an object. Similarly, we know we need sign in success and sign in failed as well. So let's say sign in success is equal to us receiving some user object or user auth. We'll figure that out once we start coding it out, but we'll use a placeholder for now. And we'll say create action using user action types dot sign in success. And then we'll pass the user through as the payload. And of course, we have a similar sign in failed. This, instead of giving us the user, will give us an error, and we will call sign in failure with the error. Actually, you know what? Let's call this sign in failed instead of failure, like that. There we go. So let's copy this over. And let's update the corresponding action as well. So there's our new action creators. As for the reducer, we need to update as well. Inside of the reducer, we are now again no longer setting this on setCurrentUser. Additionally, we also need to add isLoading, because now we're going to be fetching as well. We should also probably add the error state, which will default by null. And now what we want to do for this case user action types setCurrentUser. We still setCurrentUser, but now what we want to do is we want to attach it to most likely sign in success. So here we can say user action types dot sign in success, modify the state current user with the payload. Now, whenever we get a sign in failure, here we'll say sign in failed, and we'll return back with the state. We can set error equal to the payload. And there we go. This is at least enough for us now to begin checking to make sure if our users are going in or if our errors are going in. So let's go into our user folder and make a user.saga.js. In order for us to write our sagas, we know we need our 4 different generators. We need take latest, we need put, we need all, and we need call from Redux Saga /effects. We also need our user action types. Additionally, we now need some of our actions. So let's bring in the ones we made. We made a sign in success. We made a sign in failed. We also made a Google sign in initialized or a Google sign in start, as well as email password sign in start. Now those though, we're probably going to dispatch from our sign up form and our sign in form respectively. So we don't need to make those in here because those actions will be dispatched from the components. Finally, what we also need is probably some utility functions from our Firebase, but again, we'll figure those out once we start actually coding out what's necessary. So the first thing we want to do is start instantiating our actual aggregator function for users. So here I'm going to say function star user sagas. And inside, as you know, we say yield all, call, and then whatever sagas we write. Oh, sorry, we don't need the const. Just export function user sagas. And here now, we want to set up the different entry sagas we have. So let's start with just the one that we made, the onCheck user session. So here I'm going to say export our generator function onCheck user session. This method is going to yield take latest off of our user action types.check user session. When this triggers, what we are going to call is a thing that will run that new function we created inside of our Firebase utils. So let's bring that in. Utils, Firebase, Firebase utils. And the method is the last one we just made here, getCurrentUser. So here we're going to make a new saga that will call our getCurrentUser. So let's think about what we want to call this. Let's call it something like is user authenticated, because then at least we'll know whether or not there's an authenticated user in our system. So let's export out a saga is user authenticated like this. And then inside is going to be a try catch block. Now I want you to take a second and think, what are we getting back from our getCurrentUser? If you remember, we get back this user auth object. So here, what we can say is const user auth is equal to yield, and then we can say call getCurrentUser. Because we are not actually passing in any parameters, We don't have to pass any subsequent arguments, but this is still going to call this just with no parameters. What we'll get back though is the user auth if successful. If it's successful and user auth is not equal to null, because remember, user auth can also be null. Null being there is no signed in or authenticated user, such as when we sign out, or if we are signed out. Then if that case, we don't really want to do anything because there's nothing to do with this null object. We only want to use it if there is a value. Now what we want to do with this user auth is essentially pass it to a new Saga, which will handle creating an object for us inside of our Firebase, which was what we did before inside of our auth listener. But now we're going to move it to a Saga. So I want you to take a second and think about how to do that. In fact, try and do it yourself. In the next video, we will move on from this and then tie all of the other methods of email sign-in and Google sign-in to that same Saga. So join me in the next video where we'll do that together.